Okay, we are recording. Kieran, how are you today?
I'm really good, man. Really good. Rushing round, but I'm happy to be here.
You just told me you're in your new gaff.
Just moved house here and expecting a second child any minute now. So I'm like, if I have to run off, then that's why.
All right, I'll let you have that as an excuse, mate. That's pretty valid, mate.
Yeah. How are
Um,
you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, not too bad at all. Appreciate your time today. Um, we always kick things off the same way, and that's with the first track from today's playlist that you're going to tell us all about. And I'm going to ask you to tell me first of all, Kieran, the track that you think has the greatest ever intro, please.
Okay, well, for me, I've always sort of grown up on like playing drums. That was one of my first favorite instruments to learn. And this track has got maybe the greatest drum intro ever, in my opinion, for like an indie lover. I'm sure people who like Dire Straits will probably prefer, their drum intro, but this song is The Rat by the Walkmen, and it's ferocious and fast and energetic, and it's hard not to dance to it, really.
It's incredible. You're the first person. I think we're on like 570 episodes of this show
No
now.
way.
And there's another track that I'm very excited to talk about on your playlist today. But this is the one I can't believe no one's chose the rat because as an
Really?
intro or just as the clubbing track, like if you went to an indie club ever, this is gonna just set fire to the dance floor. It's so good. And I don't even think it's just the drums. Like when I first saw that video
Mm.
on MTV, you are drawn to watching that drummer because I don't know how his arms are doing what they're doing, but all of them, the bass player, all the different parts of that record, just make something special, and his vocals are just venomous. They're so good, and yeah, and do you know what? I've got to be honest. I don't know if you was the same, but I got so excited for the album, and I was a little disappointed when I got the album because it was like, oh, there's nothing else like the Rat on this album. It's very
Yeah,
different the rest of the record. It's almost Dylan-esque, some of it.
it's true. Yeah, I think there's a track on it called it's something like Savages or Little Savages or something like that, which is the closest thing to the rap. But
Mm.
yeah, it seemed to be a bit of a one-off moment for them.
Yeah,
And yeah, I remember that video as well, and they all look really unfazed by how
yeah.
amazing the song is. And that's like that's always the coolest thing, isn't it? It's like when someone's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was lucky enough, like maybe 5 years before, when I was sort of trying my best to do what I could in the toilet circuits of London and Essex in a band. I got to play a few shows with a band called Jonathan Fireeater, and that was, I don't know if you noticed, that was who they were before they were the Walkmen.
Right, okay.
And they come over and managed to get a couple of shows with them. And even back then, like his voice was just ridiculous. It had such a snarl to it that was wonderful. But I want to talk a little bit about intros. And we live in a world at the moment where it appears attention spans are dwindling, and generations that are coming through are consuming all their music via streaming services and apps like TikTok and things like that, which moves very fast and kind of leans into maybe not, but maybe putting pressure on artists if they want to play it like that to kind of crop what they do to hook them quick and hold them there for however long them shortening attention spans. I'm going around the houses with this question, Kieran. Bear with me. Um, but essentially, what I'm saying is, do any of these kind of movements and trends in how people are consuming their music and and these attention spans, does any of that filter through, if at all, to your creative process?
Yeah, it definitely does. And labels and management will always try and refine. And I think the word crop is perfect. Crop your songs. We did a song called Sad Happy on a couple of records ago, and that's got like probably a 30-second intro. Um, and the label were insistent on like cropping it by like half. So there's two versions on Spotify, but the longer intro streams better. And I always thought that was quite interesting. It's like you almost underestimate people's attention spans sometimes.
That's interesting.
Um, because if the intro is really good, it will keep your attention. You know what I mean? The idea that an intro shouldn't be there because it's not keeping someone's attention, I think that says more about how rubbish the intro is than
Yeah,
necessarily, if you think about like, I my son loves Thunderstruck by AC/DC, which is like the guitar part, but if that wasn't there and it just kicked into the vocals, it'd be rubbish. Like it'd be
yeah,
like you'd lose the best part of the song. Um, so I think it the the temptation is always to go for like straight to the vocal and stuff because it's less risky. Like that you're gonna at least get attention straight away. But the bolder move I think is to try and write a really banging intro, something that hooks people in. But it's a shame. It is a shame because I love intros, so it's a shame that they've got lost a little bit now.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you for track two, Kira. Tell me the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
Okay, this is I was on holiday with me mum and dad. And we were in a pub, and I'd never seen a live band before. And I remember sitting at the bar with like whatever, a glass of Coke or something when I was like, I don't know how old I was, maybe 8 or 9. And this like drum kit was next to me. I was like, what's that for? Like, what does that do? And then this band started playing Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin. And it was like the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I didn't have earplugs or anything, so it probably damaged me for life. But it was like, when you have like a physical response to like music and like the feeling and the kick drum smacking me in the face and that riff. I mean, I'm not a huge like that song was kind of ruined by was it Top of the Pops or whatever.
Yeah.
So like I kind of got sick of that riff eventually, but that being the first thing I heard and like the John Bonham style drums and the singer and like it was a thing. It was like oh my God, live music is amazing. And instilled that sort of desire to pick up an instrument in me straight away.
Where was where was home growing up, and was it a musical environment?
It was relatively musical. I always skip my mum and dad because they had some terrible taste. Like it's a lot, like they had some good taste, but like there was a lot of Simply Red, the Lighthouse Family, um, like this really middle of the road kind of
Yeah.
safe. The Cause.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to buy my dad the Cause album every year for Christmas. It was like I'm gonna look back now, like what's going on there? But my mum had like old Joni Mitchell records and old Carole King records, and so that they gave me a good education in like melody and sort of and pulling on the heartstrings. But just really encouraging, really like let me listen to any music I wanted and dance around to any music. And as soon as I was like interested in guitar, it was like, well, let's get your guitar lessons. And it was always like it was easy to get into music because my mom and dad were like, yeah, just go for it.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, we'll pick back up on sort of guitar lessons and such shortly, but let's get track three on. And for that, I'm going to ask you to tell me the song that reminds you of your time at school, please.
Okay, I've put here What's My Age Again by Blink 182. Um, which was like when I was in, I think, year 7 or whatever, when you're like 12 or 13. Blink 182 was sort of really, everyone was just listening to them. That was the thing because they were a bit like rude, but also like loads of distorted guitars and like incredible melodies with like very pop melodies for such like a distorted guitar and loads of dissonance and like interesting sounds and um they were just awesome, and that song like was one of the first things that me and my mates tried to learn on guitar. It's a really hard guitar part. Um, and yeah, I mean to this day, Blink-182 have stayed a massive band throughout their whole career, so I think that proves how good their songwriting was and is.
Yeah, I think there's so many bands that sort of come through in that sort of era of. I always kind of just I refer to it as like the American Pie era. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all of them kind of sort of pop punk skate bands that all kind of come through on that wave. And for every Good Charlotte and Sum 41, they never quite. I don't think they had the melody that Blink had. And I think you nailed it there. It is. It's like it's full of pop. Like what's my age again? And it's laden with pop sensibilities, isn't it? But just with raucous guitars, and it just works. And I think that's why it become such an earworm.
Mhm.
And like you say, of all of them bands from that era, they're still selling out arenas and headlining festivals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a testament to like to the songwriting, and I think if you look at any sort of band with heavy guitars and stuff like even like Metallica to an extent, there's pop sensibility within the melodies.
mm,
If you pull away all the heavy drums and distortion, there's a great song there on an acoustic guitar or whatever. And that is, a good lesson for anyone who's writing heavier music. It's like you still have to write banging melodies.
absolutely, absolutely. Did you enjoy school?
No, hated it.
What did you hate about it?
I've got no attention span, so like, and I'm not very. I struggle with like maths and um anything like that. So I think sitting there for however many hours a day, I was just really naughty to be honest, and just like getting detentions a lot. But I wasn't like a naughty kid. I just didn't have any attention. You know what I mean? So like I would get in trouble because I'd just be doing something else than what they were asking me to. But I had guitar, we found a guitar teacher who let us skip classes by going to his lessons. So I was like, well, sound, that's good for me.
So was that encouraged? Not obviously skipping other classes, but like the music teacher would he actively encourage you that this is a viable career option.
Well, there was certainly not necessarily the music teacher because he wasn't great, but there was teachers who would be like, you can go and do guitar. I don't know. It was a different. It was we're talking a little quite a while ago now, so you probably wouldn't get away with
Yeah.
skipping lessons for guitar now. Um, and we had this old dude who used to teach us like you know whatever we wanted that we were listening to at the time, and it was awesome. And like it was an escape from boring maths class,
Yeah.
really. So that was good.
Did you know what you wanted to be?
No, not at all. No, I think when I failed on my GCSEs. You meet the connections advisor, don't you? And they're like, well, you could become an engineer or, what do you like? And I was like, well, the only thing I really like is art, which I was pretty rubbish at, and music. And she was like, well, you can go to college and do music. And I was like, you can go and study music like properly. Um, and so when that became an option, I was like, well, let's do that then. So I went to college then and did music.
Nice, nice. So you're a confident kid.
I would say like to an extent, yeah, relatively confident. Um, not confident in my like not I wouldn't like stand in front of people and be confident. I would always be like trying to be the class clown, but like the idea of like performing in front of people was really scary to me still. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. I think it's like I enjoy performing, but I was scared of performing.
What's your relationship with it now?
I I don't know really. I've always been more of a studio person. I enjoy being in the studio and making music, and I think that's my where I find happiness.
Yeah,
Um, I like gigs. I like the moments of the where people are singing the song back, but the tour inside of it and being away from my family and that sort of thing. And I'm not a big fan of that, but I never have been a big fan of like traveling around and I quite like being home really. A bit of a comfort person.
yeah. I'm going to ask you now to tell me the first track you remember buying from a record shop.
Okie dokie, let me see what I put here. Oh God. Oh yeah.
This has got to be a howler. This one, you can't have cool records all the way. This is the one where everyone like has that kind of little moment.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, well, so I think I don't know how old I was when I got this. But the when I was in primary school, the Spice Girls were pretty prevalent. And my first single was Mama or Mama,
Hmm.
with which I think was a double A side with like ah, Who Do You Think You Are or something like that.
Yeah,
Can't remember. I really fancied them all, so I was like, it was my first like, it was my first sort of like crush. I don't know whether I liked the music or not, or whether I just fancied them, but yeah, it was like when you go to HMV and a CD was 2.99 or whatever, and that your first purchase was usually a single because that's what you could afford.
yeah.
Um, and I think it was between that and Backstreet Boys, and I went for the Spice Girls. Yeah, but I don't think anyone was buying cool records then. Like none of my mates were buying like Bowie or anything like that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Um,
I'd question it if someone come on here and was saying at 8 years old they were buying Bowie records.
yeah, I wish.
What's been your relationship with the record shop as you've gone on to become an established artist and release records? As do you have a relationship with them sort of independent record shops? And is it something when you are touring about, and you see a record store, will you stick your head in there? What's your relationship with them now?
I love them. I don't buy as many vinyls as I used to. I worked in HMV for like 3 years, so I watched the sort of demise of physical sales. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's quite sad to watch, really. Um, and one of my favorite films is High Fidelity, and like I love the idea of when records were the only way you could listen to music, and you would have to go out and you would have to sift through, and you would have to say, I've got 20 quid here, I can buy two records, and I need to decide what they're going to be, and I need to think hard about it. You used to invest the money you'd made in records, and it was an important choice. And if you didn't like the record, you'd just keep listening to it till you did because you'd spent all your money on it. And I did that with the National. I bought their records, and I didn't like them at first, but I was like, well, I spent 30 quid on these. So I just listened to them over and over again and fell in love with them. Which is a shame you don't really get that with Spotify and stuff like that. But as a band, we play a lot of the independent record shops when we do album tours and stuff, and I hope they continue. And it seems that vinyl has sort of hit a good level again
I think
now.
so.
Um, but it'll never be the same as when we were younger, and that was the only way you could buy records.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Tell me the song that soundtracked your year's clubbing, please, Kieran.
Okay. Clubbing is one way to put it, but I would just go to like this indie bar called the Crazy House in Liverpool, which was like three floors of the bottom floor was metal, the middle floor was indie, and the top floor was dance. And every Thursday night I go and get really drunk there, and it was the greatest place in the world. But there's a song that came out by a band called, I think it's pronounced Head Automatica or Head
It is.
Automica. Is it that? Yeah, yeah. And a tune called Beating Hearts Baby. And when you sent me like the list of songs, like a list of questions, sorry, just this song popped up straight away because we just used to love it. And it's got like an amazing vocal
So
delivery
good.
and a really weird vocal delivery. Like you can hear all the breaths and the noises, and he sings it in such a cool way. And it's the dude from a metal band called
Lost
Glassjaw, I
you.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah, who were really weird as well.
yeah.
But this tune, and again, similar to like the Rat, I don't think they really had anything that quite matched this song. But it's a proper banger. Like I wouldn't even
So
know.
good.
It's like melodically and lyrically so catchy, like undeniably catchy.
So different to Glassjaw as well.
Yeah, I know, yeah. And so like yeah, we just loved it, and I need to listen. I haven't listened to it for years, so I'm gonna put it on after this. And
The intro's amazing as well because it's just that. Be my
Yeah.
baby before
Yeah.
the drums sort of kick in. Oh, it's so good. I
Yeah.
I've run an indie venue for over 30 years now, and funnily enough, a
Amazing.
bloke that used to work for me ended up promoting the Crazy House for years as
Oh,
well.
really?
And Beating Heart Baby, we have played that every week from when it got released, and it will be getting played tonight. It
Really?
gets played every week, and it's that one track that kids will come up to the DJ booth and go, "What's this?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, it's this band called Head Automatica," and it's like, "All
It's
right."
dead
So
old.
much like the Rat, you probably won't remember anything else they've done,
Mm.
but that track is just a
Yeah.
pop
I
gem.
mean, imagine if a band brought that out now, you'd be like, this is the greatest band in the world. Because like there's no bands releasing music that as good as that at the moment, I don't think.
Yeah,
Just like undeniable and like unashamedly catchy as well. It's like not trying to be cool. It's like in your face and like the deliveries raw.
yeah.
It's awesome.
It was so weird because Glassjaw was such a kind of complicated sounding band.
Mm.
And then they must have just thought, right, look, let's just write some pop gems. Let's
Yeah.
just, and if you're going to drop that as your first one, then yeah, fair play. It was such a cracking choice. I'm so glad you picked that, mate. It was like, as soon as I see that, I thought, never thought I'd get to chat about that record on
Yeah.
here.
I didn't, you know what? It was lodged away in the back of my brain. I hadn't thought about it for like
Yeah,
10 years. And then I was like, oh man, what a tune.
yeah. Sling it on after this because it holds up. It
I
really
will, yeah, yeah.
right, I'm going to take you back home for the next track, and I'm going to ask you to tell me a favourite track from an artist from your home county, please.
Yeah, I mean, this one was an easy choice of the band, which is going to be the Beatles, obviously. But I still haven't picked a song. I just went to watch Midas Man, which is the Brian Epstein story,
Mm,
um, which was great again to sort of go back to sort of the embryonic stages of the Beatles and how it all began and like just what ridiculous songwriters they were.
yeah,
Um, I'd probably have to. I always sort of fall back in love with like Here, There, and Everywhere, which I think was a Paul McCartney written one.
I think it was.
Um, who I think he sort of just tips over the edge for me in terms of my favorite writer out of all of them. Um,
Really?
yeah, I know most people would say Lennon, right? But I think McCartney for me is just, I don't know. I think he's more. They're all geniuses, but he's like
Yeah,
just a little bit more genius for me.
yeah. I mean, we're not hating on a Beatle there. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
no,
his worst moment is everybody else's best moment.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, but I always like, if I had to sort of try and rank them, not that I ever have, but I always just think like immediately after the Beatles, like I don't know, I thought John stuff was
yeah.
better than Paul's.
I think solo stuff. Yeah, I was always drawn to those two Lennon records. I think it's a Plastic Ono band and I can't remember the other one. They were the ones that were produced by the
Not Double
Psycho fella.
Fantasy.
No, um, I can't remember. It's one with like Mama on and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, Mother, sorry. Um,
They're very different songs. One's the
yeah,
Spice
yeah. I just love the Spice Girls. But yeah, I think Lennon's solo stuff was a little bit more endearing. McCartney had his super cheesy side and like, hey, come on,
Yeah.
do. Um, but yeah, the Beatles, I think in the Beatles, McCartney was but when you watch that documentary, you just realize how much he sort of held it together, really.
Yeah.
He was like a sort of teacher, sort of telling the kids to be quiet every 10 minutes. Um, which some people saw as a bit square and boring, but like ultimately, if you want the Beatles to have released all the music they did, they needed McCartney to sort of steer them all, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Solid choice. Solid choice. Right, this is your last track, Kieran. And this is where you get to play tastemaker and an influencer, I believe the young uns call it.
Oh yeah.
Um, I'm going to ask you to tell me a song that you think the listeners of this podcast may not know that you would like them to go and listen to.
This is a tough one. I think I don't know how many people would know this. You might be able to tell me better what your listeners are into. I can pick a different song than this if you don't think it's right. But I grew up with Joni Mitchell and the record Blue,
Oh, perfect.
and my mum's favorite song was Little Green. And it's just like melodically phenomenal. Um, like vocally, she's so like acrobatic, but like in a still tasteful way. I don't know how she does it. And I think when she released this record, everyone was just like, she's the best. Like all of her peers, your James Taylors and Carole Kings, and they were all just like, Joni's the best.
Yeah.
And the whole of Blue is like amazing. It's just phenomenal. But Little Green's always been one that stuck out to me, and I find very comforting.
It's a beauty. It is an absolute beauty. Um, Curiosity's got the best of me. Had you thrown another one in the mix, what was you gonna go for?
Well, I think when you try to say something that people don't know, that's when it gets interesting. Um, uh, mm, I could pick a band that was I mean, there's a band who I grew up listening to called Sound of Guns, who were a Liverpool band, who were my mates. And they were one that I remember walking into the Zanzibar in Liverpool and seeing them play a song called Backs of Butterflies. No one will have heard of this, I doubt, because it was quite a Liverpool-based thing. And it blew me away. And I was like, this is the next U2. Like, these guys are going all the way. I mean, never in the end, I was disappointed. And Sai, my friend in the band, he now plays drums for Echo and the Bunnymen. So like they've all gone off and done various things themselves. But Sound of Guns were like, for the moment, like Liverpool's great hope of being like the next
Mm.
huge thing. And I love them. And I think they got messed around by the label and stuff. So it was one of those unfortunate stories of a band sort of fizzing away in the end. But Backs of Butterflies by Sound of Guns would be my like, you've definitely probably never heard of it, but it's a banger.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, look, we've been talking about so many other bands and friends' bands. Let's talk about your band. What's going on?
Yeah, good man. Like just we finished the first record. We're doing like two records for this next record, two parts. So we finished the first one and we're starting to release singles off that now. I think that's going to be out in February. It's called Death and Love. And then the second half, I'm just sort of finishing it now in this room,
Yeah,
trying to write a couple more before this baby arrives. Um, and that'll be out, I think, a few months later after the first one. So it's like it really harks back to those sort of New York indie bands. I love like the Walkmen and the National and the Strokes, and it's very guitar-y and it's very raw. And I think Circa Waves fans are gonna really like it.
wonderful. Well, I mean, I know you're not a big fan of Leaving the Family, especially now there's another one due. But will there be shows?
Yeah, yeah, we've got a, yeah. I mean, I still love playing shows. You know what I mean? We've got a UK tour and a little European tour in end of Feb. So we're playing all the usual places you'd imagine, Manchester, Glasgow, Liverpool, London, and everywhere in between. Um, and then yeah, we're gonna try and get to some festivals and all that sort of business. So yeah, it's gonna be busy.
Fantastic. And if people want to keep up the speed with everything that's happening with the band, where's the best place to keep up the speed?
But I don't know, Instagram, Spotify. I'm not really sure. I think you just Google it, don't you?
You just do that. Yeah. Well, look, if it's cool with you, we'll tag you in this on Instagram. So if people aren't following you already, then we'll make it nice and easy for them to.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram is where we update with all the usual tour stuff and releases and all that business. So you can find us there.
Wonderful. Kieran, it's been lovely chatting records with you, mate. And you
Yeah,
bought
you too, Stu.
and you got to chat. I've got to chat about Head Automatica and the Walkman. So that
Yeah,
was a lovely little way to kickstart my Friday morning. So thank you very much, mate.
yeah, man. Thank you very much, Stu. Cheers, mate.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Best of luck with the baby. Best of luck with the record and the shows. And
Thank you, mate.
have a lovely day.
You too, Stu. Nice one, mate.
Take it easy, mate. Bye
See ya.
bye.
Bye bye.